In the previous lecture, we learned about basic form input bindings, where we learned how to make use of VModel to bind checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop-downs. Now, there we made use of Boolean variables when it came to bind checkboxes. But there are instances when we make use of some other values which are not Boolean in nature, and we need to associate them with checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop-downs. So, how that can be done in Vue? Vue allows us to have value bindings for such input types. Using a value binding, we will be able to map a non-Boolean value, let's say a string, to a checkbox, and then say that if a string value is this, then it's going to be a truth value. Otherwise, it will be a false value. So we can define both these truthy and falsy values, and based on that, the checkbox will be checked and unchecked. Here you can see an example. What I'm trying to do is I have a data model called toggle. Now if you see, we have toggle over here initialized with A. What we're trying to say is make use of vbind, and the true value is A. So when a checkbox is checked, that means the value is A, and if it's unchecked, that's false value, is B. You can see that we have two additional data attributes defined, A and B. Now this A and B that we see over here is actually this A and B that we are referring to, and their values can be anything, checked, unchecked. So when we run this application, the first time the model value of toggle is picked. So toggle over here, as you can see, is initialized with A. So A is the checked value, the checkbox will be checked, and next to it the label will read A, and as soon as I'll uncheck it, the false value will be picked up, that's B. So B will be picked from here, and its associating text value will be shown. Let's go ahead and take a look now. So here at the bottom you can see the checkbox is checked with the default value coming as A. This value A is coming from the model toggle. Now if I uncheck it, the value becomes B. Now this B is coming from this B value. And let's again check it back. You can see A now, and this A is now coming from this A value. Let's go ahead and now rename it to checked and unchecked, and refresh this page now. So initially you can see that the A is coming from toggle, and now if I check this one, you can see the message changed to checked, and now if I say unchecked, it's unchecked. So that's how it's reading the values from these A and B. That's what we have defined over here, A and B. Similarly, we can make use of radio buttons. So here again, I'm making use of the toggle model, and the vbind is associated with the value A. A is over here referring to this value checked. Now, you'll notice that both these checkboxes as well as this radio button is having the same model called toggle. So when I'll change one, the other will also be changed or updated. So here, if I check this radio button, you'll notice that the checkbox is checked by default, and if I uncheck it, the radio button is also unchecked. And if I go ahead and check this one, because the value associated with it is A, and A is a truth value, that's why the checkbox is also getting checked. So you can see that now we are making use of some non-Boolean values and binding them to these input types. Now here, with drop-downs, you can see that I have created another model called selected, and selected initially is having empty value. Now here I'm binding an object literal as well, and this value is the value which user sees. So 224 is the value, and then I'm making use of an object literal here to bind it to the select input type. Now when I will run this application, you'll see that when the selected is called, it's calling selected.number. Now number is the object literal that we have over here, and the value associated with it will be displayed. So 224 is the value. That is what will be shown as selected value. Let's go ahead and check it out now. So here, initialize with empty value. Now let's go ahead and select 224, and that's what you see over here. Now if I go ahead and make this change to 25, now let's go ahead and run this again. So here I'm selecting 224, but the value that you see is 225. That's what we have over here for number object literal. So that's how you do value bindings with checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop downs in Vue.js.